Perfect. Good evening, Corinne King, Deputy Director of Planning. Because Commissioner Grunsky is remote, he has asked that Vice Chair Midgley chair tonight's meeting.
We'll have the flag salute. Vice Chair Midgley, thank you. We have Commissioner Sangha and Commissioner Grunsky who have asked to appear remotely tonight, and they are both on camera. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
You could clarify the basis for the request for the remote appearance from both commissioners. Then if we can do a motion in light of the basis of their request, either emergency, medical, or alternatively just cause. So if you could just clarify that and then move forward, I appreciate it, Chair.
Okay.
Medical for myself.
Medical for myself too.
Discussion?
I make a motion, we accept.
I'll second.
Call for a vote.
Commissioner Midgley,
Yes.
Commissioner Milas,
Yes.
Commissioner Roostaller,
Yes.
Commissioner Sangha,
Yes.
Commissioner Grunsky.
Yes.
Roll call. Commissioner Grunski,
Present.
Commissioner Midgley,
Present.
Commissioner Roostaller,
Here.
Commissioner Milas,
Here.
Commissioner Singha.
Here.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Call for vote?
Commissioner Singha,
Yes.
Commissioner Milas,
Here. Yes.
Commissioner Roostaller,
Yes.
Commissioner Midgley,
Yes.
Commissioner Grunski.
Yes.
Minutes approved. Are there any changes or additions or withdrawals or requests for continuances?
No, no changes, thank you.
Items calendared for consent, maybe, there aren't any items tonight for consent. Action item,
Want to do public comment?
oh, I'm sorry. Are there any public comments that are not connected to what we're talking about tonight, other than what's on the agenda tonight? No? I'm ready to go on to action item number 1. Number 1, variance, PA 230018 of Barbara Croce, care of Dillon and Murphy, to reduce the minimum acre parcel size of Ag 40, general 40 acre minimum zone to 2 acres and 29.08 acres to allow for the subdivision of the existing 31.08 acre parcel into 2 parcels. We have a staff report?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. Jennifer Jolly, Director of Community Development. I'd like to introduce our Associate Planner, Nancy Arroyo, who will be giving the presentation tonight.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. The proposed project is a variance request to reduce the minimum required parcel size in the AG40 general agriculture with 40-acre minimum zone from 40 acres to 2 acres and 29.8 acres. The underlying project is a minor subdivision of the existing 31.8-acre parcel to create 2 parcels, which will be submitted if this variance is approved. The project site has a general plan designation of AG, General Agriculture, and a zoning designation of AG40, General Agriculture 40-acre minimum. The project site is located on the north side of East Rattle Road, 2,000 feet east of Hildreth Road, east of the community of Murata. The property is primarily surrounded by agriculture uses and scattered residences. This is a site plan depicting proposed underlying subdivision. Rattle Road runs along the western and southern property lines. Proposed parcel 1 is 29.8 acres. For 1. And the proposed parcel 2 is 2 acres in size. Pursuant to Development Title, the State Code and Planning Commission is required to make several findings in the affirmative in order to approve a variance application. The applicant submitted findings for the approval of the application. The Community Development Department has reviewed the applicant's findings and recommends that findings number 2 and number 4 can be made in the affirmative. However, staff recommends that the Planning Commission deny the variance application due to the inability to make findings number 1 and number 3. Findings number 1 states that because of special circumstances applicable to the property, including size, shape, topography, location, or surroundings, the strict application of the regulatory deprives the property of privileges enjoyed by other properties in the vicinity and under identical zoning classification. The applicant states that the property is surrounded by multiple parcels that are inconsistent in the size of the AG40 zone. The subject parcel is already smaller than permitted at 31 acres in size. The subject parcel's configuration predates Community Development Department's records and is similar in size to parcels in the vicinity, all of which are subject to the same development title regulations that limit further subdivision in the AG40 zone. As a result, the subject parcel does not appear to have any special circumstances. Findings number 3 states that the granting of the variance will not constitute a grant of special privileges inconsistent with the limitations upon other properties in the vicinity and zone in which the property is situated. The applicant stated it would allow a parcel consistent with 97% of the properties in the immediate vicinity. The Planning Commission has previously approved variances for factual situations similar to this. Staff has found that granting of this variance may constitute a grant of special privileges as the other properties under 40 acres are held to the same development title standards, restricting further subdivisions. The project site is located in the AG40 zone, which is intended to preserve agricultural land for continued commercial farming enterprises. The general plan states that the county shall not allow further fragmentation in land designated for agriculture use except for specific allowances in the development title. The proposed underlying subdivision does not meet development title regulations. If the variance is approved, the subdivision will result in parcels that are below the zone minimum, one of which being 2 acres in size and not considered to be sufficient size for farming. The granting of this variance may constitute a grant of special privileges because the proposed underlying subdivision is inconsistent with the general plan and development title. Parcels in the vicinity of the project site that are below the 40-acre minimum were consistent with the general plan, zoning, and code requirements that were in effect at the time of their creation and will also be held to current requirements for any future development. Further, a similar variance was previously denied on an adjacent property in the past because the Planning Commission was unable to make all of the findings in the affirmative. These photos were taken from Brattle Road looking northeast towards proposed parcel 1. This photo is taken from East Brattle Road looking northeast towards the existing single-family dwelling to be located on proposed parcel 2. It is recommended that the Planning Commission deny the variance based on the inability to make findings number 1 and number 3 contained in the staff report. This concludes staff presentation. Thank you.
Any questions from the commission? Then I will open the public hearing to comments from individuals. State your name, address at the microphone before communicating if you're commenting on the project.
Good evening. I'm Joe Murphy with Dillon and Murphy, representing Barbara Croce, who's also in attendance. Excuse me for bringing a bottled water. I've got a raspy voice. Thank you for hearing our project, and thank you to staff for their efforts, and thank you, Barbara, for speaking after I am. I know she wants to say a few words, and I know public speaking isn't everyone's favorite thing to do, so I appreciate you stepping up. When I first met with Barbara, I explained to her that getting variances approved can be very difficult. Her intentions were so admirable that I agreed to help her with process this application. So as Nancy said, you have to make 4 findings before you can recommend approval, and we agree with the 2 that staff has made, so I won't waste your time discussing those. Finding number one, asked to prove special circumstances to the particular property that would enable the owners their intended use. The mother parcel of this application was much larger than 40 acres. Land lost due to county road dedications bisecting the property, and the property being bisected for family reasons created the situation we have now. So currently my client owns less than the required 40 acres. The uniqueness, and that's kind of what I'm trying to prove to this, is the uniqueness to this application is the missed opportunity that my client experienced. He needs to have 40 acres in order to divide a smaller parcel for a family member. Maybe I'm getting old, but I remember processing these type of applications back in the 80s and 90s. And back then, under those rules, this land use would have been allowed. I have a brief example to pass out, and I'll just briefly discuss it. So briefly, this was an application actually I worked on in 1992, back when we did it by hand and things were a little simpler. But I just bring this up to point out what Nancy and other planners have said before me. You know, the rules were different in those days. I've kind of highlighted the important parts of this application where the property was 24 acres. They wanted to create an 1.5 acre parcel for a family member. And if you look at the application, you just check the box that says creating a parcel for a family member. So it wasn't controversial. That's what everyone did in those days. And that's why there are so many parcels in this vicinity that are substandard. So although my client's families owned this property back when this type of application was allowed, she never took advantage of it. And she should have, but she couldn't predict the future and know that her nephew someday might want the house. Couldn't predict the future, know that the rules would change and she would no longer be allowed to create a home site parcel. You look around the immediate neighborhood, most of the substandard parcels were created by the pre-1962 rules. The only problem is my client didn't take advantage of the old rules. That's precisely what makes her unique. She's one of the few properties in that vicinity that didn't take advantage of what was once allowed. So poor timing or lack of opportunity was her only crime, but I think the uniqueness can be proven, and I think this finding can be made. Finding number three, now, by definition, this finding can never be made, and I've brought that up at public hearings before. What the finding is asking is, will granting of this variance allow something that zoning doesn't allow? Well, yeah, of course it would. If zoning allowed a home site on a 31-acre parcel, I wouldn't be asking for a variance. By definition, finding number three is asking if granting the variance will, quote, grant a special privilege inconsistent with the limitations upon other properties in the vicinity. What does that really mean? In my mind, it means asking if you grant the variance, would you be allowing something that no one else in the vicinity is allowed? My argument is no. You would be allowing something that 97% of the people in the vicinity already are allowed. That is a property below zone minimum. The vicinity is widely considered a 1 mile radius. And in that radius, 97% of the parcels are already below zone minimum. So granting this easement just allows my client to enjoy what basically everyone in her neighborhood already enjoys. So this finding can be made. It's not a fish out of water, it's what everyone else out there has. So in conclusion, when I started this presentation, I stated that it's difficult to get a variance approved, and I believe that. I believe that the reason the county even has a variance application, because sometimes the intent is admirable, but the rules just don't quite allow what the intent is. So we ask for a variance. That's why you have the application. A variance should be difficult to get approved if the end result is something that just doesn't belong. I've been in an audience like this where there was literally busloads of people opposing a project, and many times their opposition was justified. We've got a pretty big audience tonight, but I don't believe there's anyone here in opposition for this project. No letters of opposition in the staff report, not from the Farm Bureau, not from the neighbors, including Murata area, who typically are pretty vocal against anything that even smells like development. There was one letter of opposition in previous staff reports that's been removed once I explained to that Marauder resident what was really going on, and when he realized this is a pretty vanilla project, he withdrew his letter of opposition. So do you know why there's no opposition? It's not because this is such a noble cause, which it is, but it's because granting this variance will allow my client to simply divide the home off the rest of the ranch. The reason is so she can transfer title of the house to her nephew. Her nephew's lived in the house for over 25 years, first as the primary caregiver to her parents and recently to raise his family there. He's improved the house with his money and his sweat and his time, and he essentially is the owner. He's lived there for 25 years. He doesn't farm, so he doesn't need the entire ranch. He really just needs the house. So granting this variance won't physically change anything. There will be no new houses. There will be no new development. There won't even be a new person occupying the house. Rather, it's just an opportunity for a family member to own a house they've occupied for many, many years. No wonder there's no opposition. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
Questions? Questions?
So the past, it's part of the findings of number 3. They did a parcel about the same type of situation was denied. So you're asking us tonight basically to set a new precedent, prove this variance, and it's difficult to do something.
Yeah, I don't know the circumstances of their denial. Every project, although variances are precedent setting, I think every project is unique.
Why does the house have to come out of the property if it's all held by the family?
It doesn't really have to. The nephew doesn't farm. The property is farmland minus the house. Barbara owns the property. It's to set him up in the future so he can own a house on 2 acres, not a house on 31 acres. The 29 extra farm acres would do him. Like I said, in my opinion, every application is kind of a standalone, and I know that one was denied. I don't know the circumstances. I think I said in my presentation, it's an admirable cause. He wants to pass it along to a family member that's raising his children there. And
Totally agree, but that's sit up here,
Yeah.
we can't take all that into account.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak in favor of the project?
I had a question. So, if I may ask, what is the need to, just like my co-commissioner said, what is the need to take that 2 acres out of the 31 acres? Why can't they just have a home? Since it's family, it's not like somebody else is coming from the outside.
I just want to have the 2 acres just
Why
separated.
can't we just be the way it is?
Well, I'd like to have this 2 acres variance just separated from the rest of the ranch. I'd like to have it separate so that he can just feel comfortable having those 2 acres.
And would you give your
So if I may,
address? Sorry.
Pardon me?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
So just like my co-commissioner said, if we do this, somebody else can come and say that, hey, they just want to have the comfort of having a separate land from the land because they have a house there. With all due respect, I don't understand what is the use for a variance when it's a family member living there for 25 years. He can be living there for the next 25, 50, 100 years with his family, his kids. I personally don't understand, besides the comfort, reasoning, what is the reason really behind
It's just
to get this thing out of the...
like to separate the 2 acres so that it's completely, I can completely give it to him, that he can completely have the 2 acres. And he doesn't farm, he does his own business, so that would there he'd reset, and he'd have his own 2 acres all to himself. He wouldn't have to worry about the rest of the property. The rest of it would be for farming, and I don't intend to subdivide anything else, I just want to separate the 2 acres. If it could be less than 2 acres, it'd be great, but I don't know, the variance is probably is the 2 acres, just take the house off the property. That's my goal. I appreciate your time this evening.
It is difficult. We have to meet the 4 findings. Make an exception, then everyone that comes up, we would be facing the same thing.
Well, it was pretty close to 40 acres years ago, but my dad gave up the acreage for the road to come through, which he didn't really have a choice, because there was 2 properties there. My uncle and my dad there was like almost 80 there, and they separated, and my dad gave up the most for the Rattle Road to go through and have the road. So that's my reason. I would just like to have the variance so that the house could be separate, and then we wouldn't have to worry about anything else. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Commissioners, are we bringing it back to the commission, or can I say a few words?
Oh, yes. Oh, well, you still want to talk about with the owner of the property?
No, I'll save it for commissioners' comments. Sorry
okay.
about when we bring it back to the commission.
Okay. Thank you. All right. I'm Commissioner. Do we have any comments? Oh, well, first, is there any opposition? No opposition? Okay. I'll take it to comments from the commissioners. Grinsky?
Yes, thank you. First, apologize for not being there. But this issue, it's kind of interesting. We've seen ones like this. But the variance, of course, bothers me like it bothers everyone else on the commission. But I think that we need to find a way to accommodate these people at some point through zoning, but not as them coming up as individual variances that we've had. We should be able to accommodate them through planning versus it coming to the commission. When it comes to the commission, it's these variances that we've had there's just been too many. And sorry, it's hard to gather my thoughts. I'm getting pretty bad feedback, but that's where I stand on it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we're ready for a vote.
Vice Chair, could I, if it's okay with you, I'd like to give a little context as to how we kind of got here today.
Okay.
It might be helpful for you.
Sure.
So as Joe Murphy was talking about, he's right. People used to do this all the time back in the 80s. When we adopted the new general plan and development title in 1992, there was a new policy created limiting when and why you could subdivide around an existing house. That's called a home site parcel. And then there were certain rules put in place to allow that, including having a minimum of 40 acres. The house had to be owned by the property owner, typically for about, I think it was 10 years. And then they had to own it another 10 years in order to sell it. So the person committing to 20 years, that's how you got your home site parcel. And the reason behind that was to allow farmers who had historically raised their families, done all the farming, and no longer could farm or wanted to be in the farming industry to be able to keep their home. The reason that policy was put in place is because, these are not my words, but this is what I've been told time after time after time, is that the subdividing of agricultural land was very much abused by, and I'm no way insinuating that this property owner's abusing it, but that's what we were told, because people would go out in the ag zone and they would do 2 acre, 2 acre, 2 acres along a road because that's what people wanted. And there were major consequences to the farming community. As you guys know, we are always dealing with compatibility issues in the farming community and residents. So that policy was put in place, 30 plus years ago. And what it used to be is that if you had an 80-acre parcel and you created 240 acres, and of one of those you did a homesite parcel, the policy was that you could no longer do any more homesite parcels. Well, what we did in this development title update and general plan update that was adopted in 16, but then the development title updated in 22, December of 22, we reset the clock. So we still are going to allow people, because it's basically a generational thing. Figure it's been 30 years, there will be a whole new set of farmers that are going to want to retire but keep their homes. So we did away with that whole original parent parcel. If you did one in 1993 and you ended up with like 60 acres and a homesite parcel, if someone bought the 60 acres and farmed it and wanted to do another homesite parcel, we would allow that now. I'm not sure if I'm confusing you guys, but essentially it reset the clock. It allowed people, again, to qualify for a home site parcel, but the reality is that you were supposed to still have 40 acres to start. So it is challenging because we do get a lot of requests for exactly this type of thing out in the ag zone. And the only way, I don't know that there is a good way to do this through zoning. AG 40 is the most used zoning, or most, what's the right, I'm not explaining this correctly, but basically if you look at a map, most of it's AG 40 in this county. We do have parcels that are under 40 acres. There's a lot of reasons why they are under 40, but the idea with the AG 40 is that they don't go smaller, with a few exceptions, like the homesite parcel, like I just explained. So I just wanted you to have kind of that context when you're thinking about, how did this used to happen all the time? How did these parcels get smaller? How do people do this if they want to get out of farming? Those are all what I'm trying to give you answers to, so that you can think about that. And let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Motion?
So is it possible to do like a AG 20 with the home site, or is it only AG 40?
I think you still need to meet general plan density is what it is. What we did also in this new development title is if you had a different zoning, this was a new policy, that you could also qualify for a homesite parcel provided you met general plan densities. We have a couple of different general plan and zoning designations in the ag zone. AU 20, which is an ag urban reserve 20 acre minimum. Those are typically on the outskirts of cities and urban development. They're usually called holding zones, but you'll still find people who have 30, 40 acres in the AU 20 zone who want to keep their home. In the old general plan and title pre-2022, you could not do a homesite parcel. So we loosened up that regulation as well, because we felt like just because you're on the outskirts of a town or a city, you may also still want to keep your home and not become a developer. You want to keep your home. So we added in a little bit of flexibility on that. Are you looking at? Deputy Director Krinking might have something to add on the minimum lot size for the other zones.
If we could do a homesite parcel in the AG zone, you have to have a minimum of 40 acres. AL zone is a minimum of 10 acres. And then there's a little bit of either 20 or 40 acres in the AU zone. So this is still zoned agricultural AG, so they'd need a minimum of 40 acres to create a homesite parcel.
Okay. Comments? Motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we deny the variance number PA 230018 based on the inability to make findings number 1 and 3 contained in the staff report.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Oh, okay. Call for vote?
Commissioner Grunsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Sangha,
Yes.
Commissioner Rustaller,
Yes.
Commissioner Milas,
Yes.
Commissioner Midgley.
Yes. but the request has been denied. Sorry. Next action, item 2. General Plan Map Amendment number PA 2100226, zone reclassification number PA 2100227, and use permit number PA 2100228 of DBBC Freight Lines Incorporated, care of Rollport Logistics Incorporated.
Thank
Staff
you.
report?
Yes, thank you. So while they're changing of the guard over here, I'll take the opportunity to let you know that Giuseppe Sanfilippo, who's been with the county for around 8-ish years, am I right on that? 7, was recently promoted to a senior planner. So just wanted you guys to know that. He is now tasked with running our counter and making all our permitting smooth, and he's doing a great job. So I just wanted you guys to know that. So he does have a presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. This project is comprised of 3 applications. The first 2 applications would amend the general plan designation and zoning of the project site from general agriculture to truck terminal. The third application is a use permit to establish a truck terminal with parking for 711 trucks and trailers and accessory structures in 2 phases over 5 years. The project site is located on the southwest corner of West Freer Road and South Manthe Road, northwest of Lathrop. The project site currently has a general plan designation of AG, which is general agriculture, and a zoning designation of AG 40, which is general agriculture 40-acre minimum. The project site is surrounded by agricultural uses and scattered residences to the north and the west. The city of Lathrop is to the south and the east of the project site. Interstate 5 is also adjacent to the project site to the east. The project site has historically been used as a hay packaging and distribution facility. The current project is, again, to change the general plan and zoning designation to agriculture to truck terminal and the truck parking for 711 trucks and trailers. The project will convert existing ag structures to covered truck and trailer parking, and the existing residence will become a caretaker unit. Because the project proposes to change the general plan designation from an agricultural designation to a non-agricultural designation, the project is subject to the Agricultural Mitigation Ordinance. Agricultural mitigation is satisfied at the time of grading permit or building permit issuance by granting a farmland conservation easement or other farmland conservation mechanism. The site will operate year-round, Monday through Friday, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., with 3 employees on site. Primary project access will be from a driveway on South Manthe Road, with a secondary driveway for emergency vehicle access only on Freeport Road. The secondary emergency access will be secured with a Knox box to give access to emergency personnel. This is the site plan submitted by the applicant. There are existing agricultural buildings on site that were historically used for hay packaging and distribution. These will remain on site and will be converted to covered parking spaces for trucks and trailers, as explained in the previous slide. TJKM completed a traffic impact study for the project that included a review of vehicle miles traveled. The study concluded that the project will have a less than significant impact on vehicle miles traveled and identified necessary improvements related to traffic safety, including a payment into a fee program for the realignment of Harlan Road. These improvements have been incorporated into the recommended conditions of approval. Additionally, the Department of Public Works has amended Condition 9B to include a sign at the Manthe Road driveway that states there will be no right turns onto Freeport Road. An air impact assessment was also performed for the project and reviewed by the Air Pollution Control District. The assessment identified 3 mitigation measures to be enforced by the district, which have been incorporated into the project's mitigation monitoring and reporting plan and the recommended conditions of approval. The Community Development Department received a letter from the City of Lathrop citing concerns about the project's location within a city area of interest, lack of STA access to the site, potential use of the Lathrop Road interchange, and payment of the North Lathrop transportation fee. In regards to the site being within an area of interest for the City of Lathrop, the county still retains jurisdictional control over land use. In regards to the City of Lathrop's restriction on trucks accessing from the Lathrop Road interchange at Interstate 5, this is not a county policy. Project traffic is anticipated to use the nearby interchange at Roth Road, which is approximately 3,000 feet north of the project site, rather than the interchange at Lathrop Road, which is approximately 7,900 feet south of the project site. In regards to providing access for STA trucks, the conditions of approval require the applicant to apply for a STA route on Matthew Road from Roth Road to the project site. Will be required to construct the necessary improvements to provide sufficient access. In regards to the North Lathrop transportation fee, this fee was only adopted by the City of Lathrop City Council and was never adopted by the San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors. So it is not applicable to development projects within the boundaries of unincorporated. The Community Development Department received 5 support letters for the project and also received 6 letters of opposition and a petition from neighbors. Issues raised by the opposition include conversion of farmland, noise, lighting, roadway impacts, drainage and runoff, air pollution, and heat spikes. As discussed previously, agricultural mitigation for the loss of agricultural land is required as a recommended condition of approval to address the conversion of agricultural land. Regarding noise impacts, the nearest residence is located approximately 185 feet north of the project site. A solid masonry wall 6 to 8 feet in height shall be erected along the southern and eastern property lines and along the common boundary shared by the project site with APN 191-230-13. That is included in the recommended conditions of approval. Regarding potential impacts from lighting, San Joaquin County development standards require that any lighting used on site must be shielded to prevent spillover onto adjacent properties. This requirement is included in the recommended conditions of approval. Regarding roadway impacts, a traffic study was completed for safety and operations, and all necessary improvements are included in the proposed conditions of approval. Additionally, the study found a less than significant impact on vehicle miles traveled. Regarding drainage and runoff, the proposed project proposes an on-site storm drainage pond, which is subject to the review of the Department of Public Works at the time of building permit. The project will also be subject to programs facilitated by the Environmental Health Department pertaining to spill prevention and hazardous waste. These requirements have been included in the recommended conditions of approval. As a result, impacts related to drainage and runoff are anticipated to be less than significant. With regards to air pollution concerns, and as previously stated, the project was reviewed by the Air Pollution Control District, which has provided several mitigation measures and project requirements, which have been incorporated in the project's mitigation monitoring and reporting plan and recommended conditions of approval. Regarding heat spikes, there is no basis to the claim that using asphalt pavement to develop the site for a truck terminal will create heat spikes for the surrounding area. The project will be required to provide landscaping, which will limit impervious surfaces. This has been included in the project's recommended conditions of approval. As previously stated, the project proposes to change the general plan and zoning designation from agriculture to a truck terminal for a truck terminal operation. In order to approve a general plan map amendment, zone map reclassification, and use permit, several findings must be made in the affirmative. Since the project was deemed complete for processing in 2021, prior to the adoption of the new development title, the general plan map amendment and the use permit projects are being processed under the previous development title regulations and findings. However, the current development title states that a zone reclassification is required to be held to the standards of the new development title, even if applied for prior to its adoption. The Community Development Department staff has reviewed the appropriate findings for each application and recommends that all required findings can be made in the affirmative. This picture is taken from Manthe Road, looking west towards the project site. This is the approximate location of the proposed driveway. This photo depicts the project site looking southwest from the intersection of Manthe Road and Fruitt Road. This picture was taken on Manthe Road, looking northwest towards the project site and existing structures. It is recommended that the Planning Commission forward this project to the Board of Supervisors with the recommendations provided on this slide and included in the staff report. And additionally, the modified condition 9B from Public Works regarding the sign at the driveway at Manthe Road. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Questions? Questions? And I'll open the meeting, I'll open the hearing, and we'll hear from the applicant or his representative.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Vice Chair and Commissioners. Mike Hakem for the applicant, 3414 Brookside Road in Stockton. As we know from the staff report, we're requesting on behalf of the applicant a general plan amendment from general ag to truck terminal, also an equal classification truck terminal, and the third of the three items would be a use permit, 711 trucks and trailers for a truck terminal facility in 2 phases, 5 years. Project site is approximately 34 acres. Thank you. By way of brief background, the Board of Supervisors created this general plan designation and zoning classification to specifically allow truck terminals in the ag zone. The board, at the time they approved this particular land use permit in the ag zone, they had 4 specific criteria which were controlling. The first was it had to be within 1 mile of a freeway interchange, which we are. It had to be outside an urban or rural community, which we are. There has to be no plan for urban development at that area, which is not planned for. And then most importantly, on a roadway of a minor arterial or higher classification for access to and from the site and to the general circulation roadway network in the county. Again, we meet all 4 criteria as set forth by the Board of Supervisors. This project was reviewed by 7 different county departments, 6 different state agencies, 3 federal agencies, and 18 local entities in our community. We've been working on this project for about 2.5 years. As staff indicated, we have an approved traffic study that was approved by your Public Works Department, and there are specific mitigations to ensure an all-stop at Roth and I-5, a reconstruction of the intersection at Manthe and Fruitt Roads, and the payment of $186,000 to realign Harlan and Roth, and last but not least, no right turn out on Fruitt and Manthe from the project driveway. As staff indicated, we also completed an approved air impact assessment study with the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District. Excuse me. For services, the project will have a private well, individual septic system, and its own storm retention pond. The project is committed to participate in the HCP for contribution to the county COG, as well as staff indicated the county agricultural mitigation program. And I also want to point out the project will have a 24-hour guard on site, 365, 24/7. As indicated, the project will use Roth Road, which is approximately a half mile north of the site. The project is fully conditioned by your staff, and that includes a 6 to 8 foot solid masonry wall to facilitate impacts for noise and adjacent roadways. The opposition raised 6 issues, and staff went through those, and I'll run through them myself. In terms of converting a farmland, there's a condition of approval that will participate in the county ag mitigation program for full mitigation. That's the reason to have the county ag mitigation program, is to mitigate for loss of farmland, and we'll comply with that requirement. As far as noise, there's a 6 to 8 foot masonry wall to facilitate insulation for noise. As staff indicated, all on-site lighting will be shielded to prevent any spillover to adjacent properties. The roadway impacts have been determined by the traffic study, and there are specific mitigation measures required in the traffic study, which the applicant has agreed to. Drainage, there will be an on-site storm drain pond, again, built to the standards of your Public Works Department. And last but not least, the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District also have their own mitigation requirements, and they also approved the project as being in compliance with the district requirements. In closing, there are 75 conditions of approval on this project, and the applicants agreed to all 75 conditions. The staff recommendation to you this evening is for an approval, and staff recommended findings are in your staff report, and we respectfully request your recommendation of this matter to the Board of Supervisors. I would like to thank staff for their extra time and effort over this last 2.5 years. We'd be pleased to answer any questions if the commissioners have any tonight, Vice Chair.
Questions? Questions? Yes? Commissioner Grinsky? No questions?
None at this time.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else in favor of the project like to speak?
I just want to appreciate the time you've taken to consider this, and I will ensure you that I will complete all the requirements needed. So I want to just give you my promise that I will complete all the conditions. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ranveer Sohal, and we are also, I'm here
to... Also your address, please.
Sorry about that. I'm here to support for the trucking facility. We are also on the same road, and I can tell you, sorry. Sorry, my name's Ranveer Sohal, and the address is 235 Briggs Road. I can tell you this, that on that exit, Roth Road, we do have a problem with overcrowding. There's not enough parking for trucks. All day, all night, there's trucks parked there on that exit and on our property illegally. They're always getting kicked out, but they're always coming back, and I think you guys should support the trucking facility. I think it will come in handy. Thank you guys for everything, and thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments in favor?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Harbans Singh. My address is 16925 Golden Acre Trail, Lathrop. I lived in Lathrop my whole life. My family's all in the trucking business. I've driven all over the country, big cities and small cities. Trucking is the lifeblood of a lot of commerce that comes into our area. Lathrop's been blessed by being in a prime location for logistics. And I believe it's imperative that we take care of the employees and the people that help make that possible, which is trucking. And as of currently, as a gentleman before stated, there is a problem of truck parking. We have a lot of warehouses, a lot of trucking business in the city and the surrounding area, but no facilities to be able to take care of our truckers that come in. So I believe a project of this size and run by the management that has experience in the area will be successful, and they'll be willing to work with requirements to be able to facilitate progress for truckers and guidelines for the city. So I urge you all to please support the project as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Good evening. This is Sharandeep Sandhu. My address is 130 West Innovator Lane, Mountain House. I belong a transport, a background in transport. I have a small transport company. And as the fella mentioned in Lathrop, we have a lot of warehouses in Stockton and Tracy. And we always have issue with the parkings when drivers have a time in between the pickups and drop off, and they needed to park somewhere. As being a owner, I don't want to be park my drivers on the road. We have to have a proper parking, and we always has an issue. So we need to get that project get going, and it will really help to the other companies, smaller companies like Aaron. Thank you very much.
Any other comments in favor? Do you have any opponents to the project? Come up and speak.
First of all, I'm really sorry for your loss. I'm here today as a representative of Havens Acres River Club. We're located at 1691 Freewart Road.
We need your name and address before you
Catherine
begin.
Makovic, didn't I start with that? I'm sorry. Well, that's who I am, Catherine Makovic, and I'm a resident of Havens Acres River Club at 1691 Freewart Road. We're at space 44. We're right on the San Joaquin River. We've owned this mobile home park for 22 years with 27 other residents, and it's been quite nice living there. But several years ago, just a little bit of history, a recycling center on Freewart Road called Harvest Power was proposing a significant addition of property for their operation. It was determined by the county that when Waste Management bought said property and diverted all their garbage trucks there, that it would significantly erode Freewart Road, affect the Stockton Airport environmentally, and the project was rejected. Now they're proposing that 40 acres at Manthe and Freewart Roads be converted to a total of 711 truck and trailer parking spaces, which means that access to our road will always be congested with trucks, making access for the fire department as well difficult at best. This was confirmed at Lathrop Firehouse 33 by Captain Nasboom, who we met with this morning. We were also informed that the Planning Commission proposes to rezone that area from general agricultural to truck terminals. And they've already approved a truck stop a half mile away on DeLima. Harlan Road is already heavily congested with truck traffic, and the Flying J truck stop on Roth Road is also a half mile away, which will surely be servicing the 700 additional trucks. I personally addressed the Board of Supervisors in 2017 in opposition to Waste Management's proposed expansion, and thankfully we were successful in that endeavor. As this is an application re-referral, it is logical to assume that it was initially denied, though I don't know the specific reasons for that. Perhaps somebody here does. Then there's the issue of who will be responsible for the inevitable degradation of Freewart Road. Is Railport Logistics the applicant planning on refurbishing it as needed? There have to be other locations already zoned for truck stops in our area. Been a steady stream of trucks speeding down the road for years, and it's only going to get worse if this project is approved. That concludes my presentation.
Any questions?
No.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else in opposition?
Hello, my name is Linda Fenn, and I live on the other street, I have a house in 775 Manila Road. There's already trucks going up and down Manthe, and it's been a nightmare trying to drive, and especially during the dark. And now with 700 plus trucks coming down more, it's going to be, it's going to be terrible. We've already experienced I've seen when the gas station came, the pilot on the other side of Roth Road, there are trucks going up and down, and when I try to go across to Airport Road, it's difficult to drive through with all the trucks. And now with 700 more trucks coming down our street, it's going to be terrible. And just seeing that it's going to be accidents, fatal accidents, just waiting to happen. And then the reason why I bought this house, to live here is to live and raise my family quietly and, live there where I've got my house. And I didn't anticipate all these trucks to be coming out to our side. I understand, if they need truck stop and, for their drivers to park their trucks, there are other places that they could go to. Why do they have to come down to our housing area? That's my comment.
Name and address, please.
My name is Catherine Brown at 580 Bowman Road, French Camp, and I am speaking tonight we are concerned citizens, farmers and ranchers in the French Camp, Lathrop, and Manteca area. We are a small agricultural community providing food, not just for San Joaquin, but with our 920,000 acres of agriculturally productive land that ranks us, California, the 7th largest producer of agriculture. We wanted you to know that using fewer than 1% of U.S. farmland, we, right here in the Central Valley, supply 8% of the U.S. agricultural output, and we're producing 1/4 of the nation's food, including 40% of the nation's fruits, nuts, and other table foods. Moreover, we wanted you to know that there are 2 questions that beg to be asked. What happens if California, but more specifically the Central Valley, stops producing food altogether? The short answer is American consumers would need to look overseas for fruits, nuts, and other table foods. But more importantly, the question is, why is it necessary to change the existing zone classifications to allow for a trucking terminal in the middle of an agricultural area? We want you to know that to lose this area, the 711 trucks and trailers, guard houses, fueling station, not to mention the many residents that would be impacted by accommodating such a large number of trucks and trailers on our roadways, how this would have a devastating impact on the surrounding areas, such as the contamination of existing crops and future crop growth. Emergency services interrupted for residents in this area, such as our police and fire services. Noise pollution, traffic congestion transitioning from Highway 5 to Manthe Road and the surrounding areas. Health issues, respiratory irritation concerns from truck fumes, employment loss, creating more economic instability. We wanted you to know that these are just a very few of our concerns. We wanted you to know that after we looked at and we reviewed the 164-page mitigation negative declaration report, that we strongly reject this zone reclassification, which would change the zoning designation from general agriculture to trucking terminal. We reject this classification. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, are you guys taking calls
via Teams?
In a minute.
Hi, my name is Delagar Tadaskidi, and I own 20 acres on Freewood Road.
And your address, please?
1360 Freewood Road, Lathrop. Thank you. We've dealt with Giggly's trucks there delivering hay and stuff, and a lot of congestion at times. With this amount of trucks that they're proposing to do at that yard is going to be unbelievable. They will not just use the front entrance. To enter that property, they have the front to the right of the buildings, which is probably 250, 300 feet. And to the left of the building, of the home on the building, the first home on Manila Road, it's probably, 2,000 feet or maybe 2,500 feet. Those trucks would be entering in that span of traffic, and that amount of trucks in and out of there is not adequate. I'm opposing this, being a resident of that street. It's just not feasible. And I have a Class A license. I know what the trucks are doing and stuff. I'm objecting to this totally.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Jeffrey Fenn. I live on 979 Manila Road. I moved my family there a few years ago, so I could breathe better, live a life, enjoy the ranch, have a nice lifestyle. But I had this in mind that it would always stay this way and not be polluted with all this that the city wants to do. So I'm in strongly opposition of changing it from a farmland to a truck stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition?
Good evening. My name is Maria Sanchez. I live at 718 Freewood Road in Lathrop. And one of the things, I agree with everything that all my neighbors have said, but one of the things that they haven't mentioned is that a couple years ago when Harvest opened, they promised a lot of things. They promised they would keep that road up. They promised they would keep the potholes filled, and they were going to even widen it. And that never happened. I know that they have said that, they're going to keep the roads clean and everything, but it doesn't happen. Most of the promises that...
Excuse me, who is they?
They're the applicant, sorry. So one of my concerns that nobody has mentioned is the fumes from the trucks. People don't think of that. When Harvest was there, all the smell and the fumes came over to our neighbor, and it's the same thing's going to happen with the trucks. Another thing that I'm concerned with is the oil spillage. I'm pretty sure they're going to have some oil spillage that's going to go down to the ground, and that ground is going to go down to our water and our wells. So I strongly oppose this. Thank you for listening.
Anyone else in opposition? Anyone online?
My name is Diego Geary. I live on 229 Clow Road in Lathrop, and I'm opposed to this because we would have never purchased our property recently if we knew that we're going to be living next to a trucking terminal. Also, I'm in agreement with the pollution. We have a well system for our home. And if you look across onto the other side, there's all these trucks already, and Nancy Road is already littered with truck drivers. So I'm opposed to this, and I work with the trucking organization as well.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition? Rebuttal?
Hello, yes, my name is Angela.
Go ahead.
I was waiting to be let into the Teams meeting for over an hour and I wasn't being let in, so I want to start off with that. I was originally in and they kicked me out of the meeting and wouldn't let me back in. So to start off, I also live at 229 Clow Road. I'm a member of the Lathrop and Stockton community. I feel strongly about this issue concerning these permits for a trucking terminal because it is so close to my home. They will be in my backyard. Our quiet and tranquil farm life will greatly be disrupted by just overall light and noise pollution if these permits are approved and they continue with this infrastructure. We're slowly losing agriculture land and increasing the commercial and industrial use of land. The detrimental effects will be noticed in the next decade if we allow this to continue to happen to our community. Too often, our marginalized communities disenfranchised due to the fact that no dialogue happens between the businesses and industries and the community that are being directly impacted. We can see other areas that have been through this now suffering from this. For example, just across from the I-5 on South Harlan Road and Roth Road, we can see the residential communities that have been siloed in between the trucking and industrial businesses, likely caused by similar rezoning of their areas. I would like to end with, I purchased this home and we wanted to be here because we wanted to experience that farm life, that farm to table lifestyle. And now with that, it's going to be impacting our community. On top of that, there is a lot of community members that have signed the petition. There are 162 signatures opposing this, and I'm not sure if they will share that at one point during the meeting, but I did want to point it out just in case that didn't get brought up. So there is a great amount of support in the community that does not want this to happen. We want to keep our farm and agricultural land safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition?
My name is John Eichel. I'm A1 Ag Farmers Market at 10910 South Manthe Road. I live on the side of Highway 5. We deal with semi-trucks on a regular basis. They turn off of Roth Road onto Manthe, thinking there's an on-ramp, and hang a U-turn and rip out our chain link fences. Sometimes we catch them, sometimes we don't. We spent over $50,000 on chain link fences in the last 9 years. When you have an applicant in front of you that makes promises, and that's what you're getting from these people, is promises, may I help you understand that these are the same people that are promising all the conditions, but these are the same people that while they're making the application are already running an illegal truck parking operation. They were reported to code enforcement. Giuseppe, the gentleman from planning, the senior planner that's presenting this, is aware. Certainly, while they're making an application and spending millions of dollars on the land, they know very well that they cannot run a truck parking facility until it gets approved. When they do that and they run this illegal truck parking facility on the property that you're being asked to approve tonight, the community requires that you have respect for your neighbors. You have respect for the law. You have respect for what the county allows you to do. Unfortunately, in order to raise money, the gentleman here, the applicant, went ahead and was collecting rent from 51 trucks. When we filed the complaint 2 weeks ago, immediately the trucks were removed. It's not like he didn't know. He knew very well that he couldn't park the trucks there. But his desire to recover some of the millions of dollars that he spent was beyond the respect for the community and respect for the county, the variances. It also requires a permit to start dumping recycled asphalt. At the back of the property, he's already started dumping on prime agriculture alfalfa land. He's already started dumping thousands of tons of asphalt. I'm being told that he owns the other property at the intersection of Roth and Manthe. We've had to file several complaints because it's a residence in an agriculture area and they've dumped recycled asphalt and they have parked at times 13 semi-trucks there. When Della and other neighbors were concerned that someone was going to get killed at the intersection, they moved all the trucks to the street. It took the highway patrol to get the trucks off the street so that we wouldn't be endangered to be able to pull out of the intersection. We all agree that we need more truck parking. But this location that they're proposing is not the right place. There's too much other land available in the area close by. We only ask that you would look very carefully at the integrity of the applicant and their promises to you guys to complete and adhere to the requirements. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition? Anyone else in opposition? Rebuttal?
Thank you, Vice Chair. The property's been fallow for a number of years. It's not been in ag production, so we don't really have the truest ag conversion issue before the commission. It's been fallow for a number of years. There is a hay business that's on the site, and that relates to the gentleman's concern about the asphalt. That was there for low areas with the rain because it was flooding, and they couldn't operate the hay business that's currently there and operating today, and the asphalt was for the low-lying areas. It's interesting that the complaint came in after the organization of the opposition. We dealt with that with staff, and it's my understanding that's working its way through the system. There was no operation of a trucking facility. There's been no trucking on the site. This applicant comes before you without any enforcement issue that we're aware of that should preclude you from making your decision tonight. Staff took the time in their staff report to detail all of the issues. I'll just mention a few in closing. The traffic study took into account all of the area, including the Haven Acres mobile home park at the river and the traffic that uses for Freeward, and that was taken into consideration. Again, the front driveway for the facility will be off the arterial Manthe and not on Freeward. In terms of promises made, these are not promises. These are conditions of approval. They're in the staff report. They have to be followed, and we're open to enforcement if we don't. My client's not going to invest the type of economic investment it takes to start this type of business and start it on the wrong foot by violating conditions of approval. So with those brief comments, I'll submit it to the commission and look forward to your deliberation and hopefully your presentation to go forward to the Board of Supervisors. Thank you.
Comments? Or anyone else?
This is Diego again. I've seen those trucks there in the area going in and out, so I don't agree with that, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Back to the commission. Yes, I'm closing the public hearing. We've already heard all the opposition. Oh, wait. Up to the. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. The public hearing is now closed. Comments? Any comments or questions from the commission? Hearing none. We have a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with application PA 210026, classifications PA 210027, and use permit PA 210022H with the 5 recommendations to the Board of Supervisors.
Vice Chair, I just wanted to, if I could point out, I noticed there is one typo in the conditions of approval. It's regarding the landscaping. In G1, which states that there's landscaping requirement on Manthe and Roth Road, but it should be Manthe and Freewart Road. So I just wanted to make sure that that gets in the record, and we will fix that before it goes to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay.
And also include, the amended Public Works condition.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have to say that that's included, or because she's already said it? Okay. Call for vote.
Commissioner Sangha,
Yes.
Commissioner Roostaller,
Yes.
Commissioner Milas,
Yes.
Commissioner Grunsky,
Yes.
and Commissioner Midgley.
Yes. Motion passes. On to our next item, action item number 3, use permit number PA-2100126 and development agreement number PA-2200232 of Darren Mangrum. Staff report?
Yes, thank you. We're, again, changing the guard here. We have Associate Planner Elisa Goulard, who's going to give a presentation. Thank you. I think she just needs a minute.
Clear
Okay.
if you wanted to give a break.
And thank all of you for coming. Really appreciate your participation. Yeah? Okay. We're going to take a short recess.
And action item 3.
Yes, for those just joining, I'll just reintroduce. This is Elisa Goulard. She's our associate planner, and she has a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Midgley.
Oh.
This project includes a use permit and commercial cannabis development agreement to establish a commercial cannabis cultivation facility in 2 phases over 5 years. Phase 1 includes construction of 3 greenhouses, conversion of an existing residence to an office and security center, and conversion of an existing accessory dwelling unit to document storage. Phase 2 includes construction of 5 additional greenhouses. Total square footage of greenhouses at completion is approximately 30,000 square feet. The proposed project is located on the west side of South Bird Road, 4,500 feet south of East 11th Street in Tracy. Project parcel has a land use designation and zoning of general agriculture, and the project site is located in an area primarily zoned and utilized for agriculture, with 2 small areas zoned industrial to the north and east of the project site. There are also scattered residences in the area, with the nearest residence located 72 feet from the project site on an adjacent parcel. There are 4 other residences within a 2,600-foot diameter. This is the site plan submitted by the applicant. The 3 orange stars, which look yellow on this, represent the 8 proposed greenhouses, which are grouped into 3 structures. The building marked with yellow is the existing residence, proposed for use as an office. The black stars are the existing storage building, and the ADU proposed for conversion for document storage. Facility operations are planned for 7 days a week, with 1 daily shift from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and a maximum of 3 employees per shift. Additionally, there will be a security guard on duty 24 hours, 7 days a week. Transport trips are anticipated to occur twice a week, with an additional trip monthly for removing wastewater from the site as needed. The project site is accessed from a single driveway off of South Bird Road. The applicant is proposing to use concrete to surface the entrance driveway and parking areas, and gravel for maneuvering areas. Because the development title requires paved surfaces for all parking and maneuvering areas, the applicant submitted a request for modification and provided specifications for the proposed gravel surfacing. The request was reviewed by the fire district to ensure that it would meet the district's requirements for an all-weather road, and the district has stated that, as proposed, the gravel surfacing will be adequate. Therefore, staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the modification. The Board of Supervisors approved an ordinance in May 2019 permitting commercial cannabis operations. In addition to requiring an approved use permit, an applicant is required to have a development agreement, which is negotiated between the applicant and the county administrator's office. This project's development agreement has a 20-year term and requires the applicant to pay the county approximately $45,000 during the development of the project, plus 3.5% of the annual gross revenues. Full development agreement is attached to the staff report. Location and access are part of the review for a cannabis cultivation project in an agricultural zone. Development title and Title IV require the site be located a maximum of 2,000 feet from an arterial road or major intersection, or to provide a secured site with sufficient access to an arterial road and for emergency vehicles. Access to the project site is located off of South Bird Road, 4,500 feet south of East 11th Street, the nearest arterial road. The project referral with the proposed access was sent to the Fire District and the Sheriff's Office for review in December 2021. Both agencies responded with conditions, and neither mentioned concerns regarding access. In 2023, the Sheriff's Office raised concerns about the access to the site, stating that they needed a second point of access to the project location in order to meet their safety requirements. While there is a second point of access to the south, where Bird Road intersects with Linney Road, because Bird Road is crossed by railroad tracks before reaching Linney Road, the Sheriff's Office does not consider this to be a sufficient second point of access. Because there isn't a requirement for 2 points of access, the Community Development Department has determined that all development title and Title IX requirements for access have been met. San Joaquin Council of Governments administers the county's multi-species habitat conservation and open space plan. The plan provides project applicants a process for mitigating any loss of species or habitat resulting from a development project. However, because the council operates in part under a federal permit and because federal law classifies cannabis as an illegal substance, cannabis projects in the county are unable to participate in the plan. As a result, the Community Development Department requires commercial cannabis applicants to have an outside environmental study performed to identify possible biological impacts and to propose mitigation. An initial study with a biological memorandum was prepared for the project by Montrose Environmental and concluded that the project site lacks suitable habitat for special status plants, but does offer habitat suitable for nesting birds. For this reason, a mitigation measure to protect nesting birds during the general nesting season was proposed. This, along with mitigation measures addressing air quality and cultural resources, have been incorporated into the mitigation monitoring and reporting plan and the recommended conditions of approval. In addition to the requirements for a land use permit and development agreement, commercial cannabis operators must obtain a county commercial cannabis license through the Environmental Health Department. When applying for the county license, the applicant must submit a security plan, a waste destruction plan, an odor control plan, and a pesticide use plan. These plans are reviewed during the licensing process by the relevant departments, including the Sheriff's Office, the Environmental Health Department, and the Agricultural Commissioner. Additionally, a California state license from the Department of Cannabis Control is required before performing any commercial cannabis activity. All county and state licenses must be renewed annually. The Community Development Department received opposition letters from the San Joaquin Farm Bureau and from a resident owning property located 1,250 feet south of the project site. The letters raised concerns regarding compatibility, water, crime, and odors. As for compatibility with surrounding area, the project is a cannabis cultivation facility, which is an agricultural use permitted in the general agriculture zone with an approved use permit and development agreement. To limit impacts on the surrounding area and on the environment, all cannabis cultivation must take place indoors. Additionally, the proposed project's watering system recycles the water and any runoff is stored and trucked off-site. Projected traffic will be minimal due to the small number of employees and transport trips, further limiting impacts. With regards to the potential to increase crime, the applicant is required to have a security plan approved by the Sheriff's Office in place prior to occupancy of the buildings. No other uses in the county have such stringent security requirements intended to deter criminal activity. With regards to potential water contamination and water usage, a drip system is proposed for irrigation, which includes a computer that calculates the amount of water needed by each plant. Any runoff is recycled into the system. When water does eventually need to be replaced, the used water is stored in a container until it can be removed from the premises. This closed system results in a less impactful agricultural operation. With regards to odor concerns, all commercial cannabis activities must be performed indoors and must have an odor control plan approved by the Environmental Health Department. An odor control plan includes a commercial HVAC and air filtration system, carbon filters, and other components to limit impacts on the surrounding area. Failure to contain odors to the project site can result in an order to shut the facility down. This photo is taken from Southbird Road looking south towards the project site. The applicant has planted a row of trees along the northern property line to provide future screening. This photo is taken from Southbird Road looking west towards the access driveway. This photo is taken from in front of the facility on Southbird Road looking north towards East 11th Street. This photo is taken from Southbird Road looking at the property south of the project site that contains the nearest residence. Residence that will be used for the facility, if approved, right here. It is recommended that the Planning Commission approve the project with the recommendations contained in the staff report and on this slide. Staff's presentation.
Thank you. We'd like to hear from the applicant, representative. And state your name and address, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair, Commission, and thank you, staff. My name is Darren Mangrum, and I am the property owner. I just want to touch base on some project details. Our project consists of converting an existing residence to a security and operation office, as well as constructing a total of 8 greenhouses. Installation of fire sprinklers throughout each greenhouse. A fire pump with a 60,000-gallon water tank, which is dedicated to the fire suppression system, and roads providing circulation throughout the property for emergency vehicles. The cultivation greenhouses are made out of a hard white polycarbonate material so that you cannot see through the sides of the greenhouses. The only clear, hard polycarbonate material will be on the roof of each greenhouse. The greenhouses will have an internal charcoal filtered air circulation system that will not allow any air to exhaust outside of the greenhouses. Each greenhouse will have an intuitive environmental control system that will use real-time environmental data to minimize energy consumption, and will use light deprivation curtains to eliminate light pollution while maintaining consistent temperature. Our cultivation operation will employ 7 employees, not to exceed 3 employees per day. Our days of operation will be 7 days a week, with daily shifts from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The daily security guard shift will consist of 3 separate shifts covering the 24-hour period. There will be no access to the general public. Site traffic will be employees traveling to and from work, as well as limited pickup appointments for product, approximately 2 per week. Environmental protection measures include industrial odor control carbon air filters that will be integrated throughout each building to ensure that no odor of cannabis will escape the facility and no disturbance to the neighbors will occur. All plant nutrients will be organic as required by the state. An automatic irrigation drip system for watering the plants will be installed, which will lower water usage, and any potential runoff will be collected into 2 dual containment 500-gallon water tanks and hauled off-site by others for disposal. This will be very minimal due to the drip system. Our security will have one 24-hour security guard on site. A security fence with privacy slots will surround the entire facility and will meet both the building code and the sheriff department's requirements. There will be multiple 360-degree, 24-hour surveillance cameras located throughout the facility. There will be downcasting security lights outside of each building, which will eliminate light pollution outside the property. The facility and all buildings, including greenhouses, will remain locked at all times except as necessary for employee access. A knockbox will be on site, giving access to all first responders in case of an emergency. Due to the discrete nature of our operation, our property has a buffer consisting of acres of almond orchards and Leland cypress trees along the property line. The Security and Operation Office, a 5,000 square foot ag building, and no cannabis activity will occur outdoors, so no disturbance to the neighbors will result from on-site operations. Lastly, our property is in the perfect agricultural location for this project. The property has ease of access to Business Loop I-205, which is the first major intersection and the first principal arterial road from the property. Our property sits on the major collector road, which is Bird Road, that directly connects to a principal arterial road, 11th Street. We are in an agricultural community that understands the already occurring noises from farming equipment, dust from plowing or harvesting, and odors from aerial crop dusting. We intend to take every precaution to not contribute to those farming practices, and will work with our neighbors to resolve any concerns that may arise. We have been working closely with the county and state departments for 2 years to ensure we are getting the proper planning and proper permits to make our project successful for us and the community. Thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
Shows what I know about growing cannabis. Why do you have to work 7 days a week?
Because the operation, we have to be there every day to monitor plants.
To make sure they're growing?
Yeah, to make sure everything's growing the way it's designed to, or we set it up to. We have to be there every day.
And is that what the 3 people do?
I'm sorry?
You said there would be 3 people working at a time. Is that what they do? One's in each warehouse or something?
Well, no,
greenhouse?
It's a complete operation. It's not just watching the plants. You have to monitor the whole operation for all the greenhouses. So every greenhouse will be in a different stage of life of the plant.
Any other questions?
No odor.
I'm sorry?
No odor.
No odor, no. Not with the charcoal filters. And it's a sealed greenhouse.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor that would like to speak? Anyone remotely? Okay. Anyone in opposition?
Good evening.
State your name and address.
My name is Mike Nocon. I'm a sergeant with the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office at 7000 Michael Canlis Boulevard in French County. Just to address a few things. First, let's address the elephant in the room. This proposal, this plan was approved by the Sheriff's Office in 2021. However, upon further review in 2023, we stand in opposition of the plan as it currently sits. The best the reason I can give you is the tenant who approved it in 2021 may have overseen a few things, maybe overlooked a few things. During a thorough review in 23, there were some concerns from our current lieutenant, namely the arterial roadways. So we have an email here from Mr. Mangrum regarding the County Associate Planner, stating that it would be a concern that the entrance has a maximum of 2,000 feet from an intersection or arterial roadway. That drew concern for them. Ms. Goulart, in her presentation, stated that the closest arterial roadway is 4,500 feet, far exceeds the 2,000 feet that they'd have to. That's one concern. Going to the south, the closest arterial intersection is 12,441 feet. So with just the arterial intersections, it just doesn't meet the criteria. The second concern that we have at the Sheriff's Office is with its current geographical location, we're not going to be able to effectively respond to an emergency at that location because of the entrance. We have the access from the north through 11th Street again, which is about 4,500 to 4,600 feet away to the north. South, we have our closest intersection being about 12,000 feet, which is split off by a railroad track. We always have to assume and plan for the worst. So with that in mind, our concern is if there's a train passing through, an emergency situation at the plant facility, how do we access from the south? We would have to loop around to the north, which is approximately going to be about, give or take, don't quote me on this, about 5 miles to go all the way around the county to the north side, through 11th Street, down Lovely, down Bird Road, to access the also, Lovely Road, which comes before 11th Street, is not considered an arterial roadway based on the Department of Transportation definition. So for those two main reasons, we are currently in opposition of the plan as it sits. Questions?
Yeah, one. So did you explain why this is the opposition? It just came up now? Is it just?
This came to my desk this afternoon. I'm actually filling in for one of the lieutenants who's pretty sick right now, so I was briefed on it shortly this afternoon.
Is staff aware of it? This?
Yes. So through the chair, I would like to say that first of all, we never like to be on the opposite side of the Sheriff's Office. I feel like we work really hard to have a good relationship and we respect their opinion. So I just want to say that. We were informed in October of 23 that the Sheriff's Office had changed their opinion on the location. We had not heard previously that they had concerns about the location when this application was originally filed in 2021. The applicant then moved forward in good faith with the development agreement in 22. So when we got this information, I believe we were scheduled to go to hearing and we pulled it and we wanted to do some additional research. So we reached out to, I believe we confirmed with the fire district, South County Fire District, to try to see if they had any concerns. We reviewed the ordinance, which does not require secondary access. So the department felt that still would be able to support the project. I think I'm going to ask for council's assistance on this. The good news is this county council actually helped write this ordinance, so she is very, very well versed on this. So, so that's why I'm going to turn it over to the expert over there.
He did, actually in concert with then Captain Alejandre, literally sitting at the table, kind of word for word. So this is just one more step in continued cooperation. And so, regardless of how tonight goes, we do want to make sure that we're staying in concert. And in fact, planning will continue to work with the sheriff if this project gets approved on those sheriff-specific requirements on the security plan. In regards to the code requirements for this project, which, again, Ms. Goulart did state in her presentation, and they're in the staff report, but let's just clarify. The locational criteria for projects like this, which is a cannabis cultivation site, they're allowed in the ag zone, but there are some locational criteria. So they either need to be within 2,000 feet of a major intersection or an arterial road. That's sort of step one. However, they can be located more than 2,000 feet from a major intersection or an arterial road if they meet 3 requirements. So we kind of have 2 different things being discussed here. One, is it within 2,000 feet? In this case, it is not within 2,000 feet. So because it's outside of 2,000 feet, the Planning Commission and ultimately the board, right, need to make those 3 findings, similar to the findings with the variance. We'll need to make those findings. So that is one, that there's sufficient ease of access from the proposed site to an arterial road. Planning believes that finding has been made and presented that. So to the extent the sheriff has concerns about these findings, we may want to ask those more specifically. The second required finding for a project to be approved, if it's outside of that 2,000 feet, is that there is sufficient access for emergency vehicles. Now that's clearly what the sheriff has articulated some concern about. Now, that appears to be true, and that was what Director Jolly was referring to, is that the development requirements for this project, any cannabis project, do not require that you have primary and secondary access. There's a singular access, meaning a single driveway, which is what we usually call ingress and egress, right? So there's only one requirement. That meets the development title. That meets Title IX, and that's not addressed in Title IV. So it meets the code requirements in regards to that specific access. It has a primary single access. But the sheriff's articulated, and I'm not going to speak for the sheriff, Sergeant Nokon can speak to this, but emergency response appears to go to finding 2, which is there sufficient access for emergency vehicles? So you'll need to make a finding on that in light of all of the information that you take in tonight and that's been provided. And ultimately the board will, right? The third finding is the cultivator license holder demonstrates that the site may be secured to the satisfaction of the county being, again, ultimately the board. So those are the things that you need to make findings on in light of all the information. Director Jolly has confirmed that staff did get confirmation from South County Fire that South County Fire doesn't have concerns in regards to these 3 findings. As I understand it, we don't have information for you tonight in regards to emergency medical response in regards to these findings, but certainly we've had no opposition or concern raised by those responders. But the sheriff's is articulating concern on these 3 findings, so I think that's what we need to make determinations on tonight. So I hope that clarifies the locational criteria in regards to the code. I will say one more thing in terms of bringing up old stuff, was that when this ordinance originally came as part of the cannabis policy project, the first iterations did not allow projects in the ag zone. As it got more and more input from community members, stakeholders, there was a push to allow it in the ag zone in regards to cultivation, because it's very similar to some of the things we do now. When that was added to the then draft ordinance, it was very clear we needed some requirements to make sure, as articulated by the sheriff's office then, that we don't have projects that are so far out in the ag zone that we're looking at, 45-minute response times, which we do have parcels that have that kind of response time, down, dirt roads and those kinds of things. So this was the criteria created by the project and then brought to the PC and ultimately to the board. And so just a little bit of history on why this exists, which is to bring those projects closer into reasonable response times. So with that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, that hopefully clarifies the code. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition?
Pardon?
Oh, yes. And the public hearing is closed. Comments?
Well, I mean, we all know that this was the direction of Board of Supervisors when they've set up these ordinances for cannabis operations. I do have a bit of a hesitation with what the sheriff told us, but at the same time, it sounds to me like Mr. Mangrum has really thought this thing out. I support.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? A motion?
Yeah, I also I think the applicant did a very good job. I'm generally right now not really in support of cannabis projects. High school me is laughing at 42-year-old me, but I think the applicant did a very good job representing himself, and I support the project as well.
A motion? Were you going to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Vote?
Commissioner Roostaller?
Yes.
Commissioner Milas?
Yes.
Commissioner Sangha?
Yes.
Commissioner Grunsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Midgley?
Yes. Motion passes. And we'll go on to the director's report.
Thank you. We have one more special surprise. No, it's not a surprise. It's on the agenda.
Yes.
But we have one more brief presentation to provide to you. This came at the request of Chair Grunsky to put this on the agenda for discussion. Megan Aguirre, our principal planner, has a short presentation,
okay,
and we're requesting direction on whether you'd like to see this as related to design guidelines for industrial development.
Okay.
I'll turn that over to her. Thank you.
Good evening, Vice Chair, Chair, and Commissioners. The Community Development Department has been approached regarding the possibility of adding industrial design standards to county projects. As such, this brief presentation will include a comparison of the current industrial design standards for the incorporated and unincorporated areas of the county, and hopefully generate some discussion about any changes that the Commissioner or the public is interested in seeing for county industrial projects. So first I will briefly discuss the design guidelines that we have for the unincorporated county. That's us. There are several current plans that contain design guidelines, but they are not all specific to industrial. The county has design guidelines for Mountain House, which cover a variety of uses, including residential and commercial. The community of Woodbridge also has design guidelines for the commercial areas. As for the plans focused primarily on industrial design, the county has special purpose plans for the Patterson Pass Business Park near Tracy and the Stockton Metropolitan Airport. Otherwise, the remainder of the county does not have specific design guidelines outside of the development standards contained in the development title. Staff contacted each of the cities within San Joaquin County and also reviewed the various cities' websites for additional information related to existing industrial design guidelines. The following slides are a summarized compilation of what was found for industrial standards, particularly those that are above and beyond general development requirements. So the city standards for industrial specific design criteria tend to fall within the following categories: building architecture, storage and loading, fencing and screening, and landscaping. There's going to be some crossover between the categories as well. In regards to building architecture, several of the jurisdictions have specific standards relating to building facades, scale, and the materials and colors used. With the exception of the area-specific plans previously noted, the county does not have specific requirements for industrial development related to building architecture. Most of the cities have specific criteria for storage and loading. For example, loading cannot be located between the street and the building in the cities of Manteca or Tracy unless the building is set back a minimum of 125 feet. The city of Manteca also requires a setback if the property is adjacent to residential. In the city of Stockton, outdoor storage and loading areas must be located on the rear or side of a building. The city of Escalon also has specific limitations on vehicle entrances into buildings. The county's general requirements don't specify the location except that storage and loading areas must be screened and that drop-off areas can be located at the primary building entry. General county requirements also require a setback of 20 feet from residential properties for commercial and industrial projects, and stored items cannot be taller than 2 feet above required screening. Most design requirements among the cities appear to be geared towards fencing and screening, so I've included more details on this slide. Screening is specifically addressed in some of the cities in relation to equipment, storage, loading, and/or parking. Permitted materials commonly include landscaping and masonry walls for screening. The city of Stockton also has requirements pertaining to security fencing and reducing graffiti by utilizing a special coating on masonry walls. County guidelines currently list several screening options that include plant materials, fencing, walls, or berms, but for truck parking, a masonry wall or solid fencing is required. Landscaping requirements vary for industrial development among the various cities, but this could be because they already have a number of general landscaping requirements, as does the county. The city of Ripon has a minimum landscaping requirement of 10% of the site, while the city of Lathrop restricts it to 10% of the site, and also has requirements pertaining to water usage. The city of Stockton also has a water usage requirement. The cities of Manteca and Tracy specify that landscaping is required to provide a buffer between industrial and other uses and streets project boundaries. The cities of Lathrop and Tracy also specify a preference for use of natural and existing landscaping. The county has similar requirements with minimum landscaping requirements and policies to address water usage and a preference towards plant materials that are native to the area. However, the requirements are not specific for industrial projects, with the exception of a specified number of trees for several of the industrial zones. After reviewing design guidelines specific to industrial development within the various cities, Community Development Department staff would like to hear the input of the Planning Commission and your thoughts on the following questions. So the questions to consider are: should the county create new design guidelines specific to industrial development? And if so, should these be applicable countywide or only to specific areas? And thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
Discussion?
Looking for an answer tonight? Are you happy, Grunsky?
Gosh, I feel so bad right now.
Good.
I feel
We're the only ones left.
Right.
feeling better. I'm in a beautiful hotel room.
May I suggest that we think on this and discuss it at the next meeting?
Yeah, but just to give you a quick background on why I was discussing this is a publicly traded company. Their biggest investments in San Joaquin County, and there's so much industrial going on. When driving through Tracy, I saw some industrial buildings that were held to a higher standard than what we currently have, and they looked really nice. They looked very beautiful. It wasn't just the landscape, and there's a lot of different things. And I was hoping at some point we could adopt something a little more similar to that, which won't impede them doing business here or any of the warehouse industrial building. but it will, while we're passing through on 99.5, things might look a little bit nicer as well. That was the whole genesis of this whole thought process.
Yeah.
So, but let's talk about next time if you guys are cool.
Well, I was going to recommend, maybe if you want to think on it a little bit, our next meeting, the only thing we have planned is the housing element. So it might be a good opportunity when everyone's not been sitting for hours, and we have our commissioners, Commissioner Grunsky in person.
Sure.
So we're happy to go ahead and move that longer discussion. But we just wanted you to know that we've been asked to do this, and essentially what we'd like to do is get direction from you on whether you want us to prepare something like that. Then we'd bring it back to you for approval, and then we'd ultimately take it to the board with a recommendation from the commission, as opposed to staff just showing up at the board with some coloring books and saying. Okay, thank you.
So we'll move it to the next meeting.
And I'm sure you're not all that interested in going over many future dates, but I would just like to give you a quick update on the winery on Davis Road that you heard many months ago. It was the one where it was a little bit controversial there was the easement, very long easement. Anyway, that went to the board on appeal, not by the appellate. You approved the project. There was opposition that appealed it. It went to the board, and it actually got approved 4-1 to deny the appeal, upholding the approval of the project. And that's probably all I need to share with you tonight. Thank you.
And thanks for your help. So, meeting adjourned.
Great job, Chair. Thank you.
I don't think we.
Good job, Vice Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm glad you'll be here next time.